So, Rocky, tell us all about how you work.
Great, thanks. Do you know, this isn't the first talk I've given to the Calgary software crafters.
Not?
It's
Okay.
not.
It feels like it's been forever since you've given a talk. So, it's your second one or your third one.
It's been a little while. Yeah, so my name's Rocky. Thanks for coming to our talks today. And so I am a software developer like most of you here. And I help with the club. And I'm really interested in helping teams to work effectively together. And so one of the ways that I've learned about is through trunk-based development, and I'll give you more information about this as we go along. Now, one way to assess how effectively your team is working together is how much time do you get to spend on writing new features versus other tasks that you need to perform throughout your day to coordinate your code with other people or to basically just to run the team, like the overhead. And so I'm going to tell you a story about a team that I used to work on. And I was tasked with adding a bulk upload feature to an app that we were working on. And so I got to work and fingers to keyboards, and I was working away. We were working in sprints in those days on that team. And so after after about a week of working on this, things were looking good. It was all coming together, and I created a pull request. And a couple of days later, I still hadn't gotten any approvals on my pull request. Um, and I tracked down some of my teammates and asked for reviews. And a few hours later, I got some good constructive feedback. And a couple hours after that, I was able to put their feedback into action. We got their eyes on it again. We got approvals, and I was ready to merge my PR. So I found out at that time that somebody else had been working in the same area as me. And suddenly, we had merge conflicts. We had been working in our own little silos for a week. And so we've got a week worth of conflicting changes. So a few hours later, about half a day, we untangled the mess and got the merge conflicts sorted out. It was um, it was complicated, but this was still a kind of a best case scenario in that nobody lost any work, and the merge conflicts were resolved cleanly at the end. Okay, so we've got the merge done, and now I've got to go and talk to QA. We've I've tried out my code in my own branch, but now, um, especially with other people's code that they've been working on at this time, we need to make sure that it still works. Okay, so here we are, Friday afternoon at the end of our sprint. I've contacted QA, like, okay, I really want to get this feature in. We want to meet our goal today, and uh, we got them to test it. They had everybody else's tickets in front of them as well this Friday afternoon, and they're working their butts off. But there we go. We get the change in. We meet our sprint goals. It's fine. It was super stressful, but we met our goals for this sprint. We're ready to go and do it all again exactly the same way next sprint because it always turned out that way. Now, you all may have had a similar experience. Maybe you've had the same experience a number of times. And I had heard about other ways of teams working together, and I had heard of trunk-based development, and I'd heard of some of the advantages of working with trunk-based development. But with my experiences, when I tried to explain it to my team and they inevitably came to me with questions, I didn't have answers to the questions because I didn't have the firsthand experience. I heard about Philip Fleet through this club, actually, and I'd heard about some of their ways of working, and I was really interested to get my hands on it firsthand. And so I've had the good fortune of being able to work with that team for about a year now. Um, it's been awesome. I've learned so much, and I want to share some of the ways that we work with you. So the basics of trunk-based development are very basic, um, which is you pull the latest code, you make small incremental changes, and you make frequent commits directly to the main branch. This glosses over almost everything that's important about it, but but these are the basics, the definition of trunk-based development. So this doesn't cover how do you ensure the quality of your code and the quality of your customer experience while you're working in this way. So let's talk about that. One of the very first things that's important about this team is that we've agreed to work with test-driven development as our primary way of working. Any new code that we introduce should be preceded by a failing test. And all of those tests get fed into our, um, our pipeline of automated testing. Now we're making these changes in small incremental steps, like I said, and we're committing these changes into our pipeline on a frequent basis. We have a tight feedback loop to ensure that that main branch that we're putting this code into is always ready to release. And we find out right away if we've introduced any changes that could disrupt that. We also do frequent code review. Usually once to several times a day, we will pair up with our fellow developers. We make time for each other fairly frequently, and we do code review as pairs. We sit down together and we go over our changes, and together we ensure that the quality of our code is maintained. We also do daily demos. Actually, we do twice daily demos where we share the progress that we're making on our features that are partly complete and the features that we've recently completed with the whole wider team, where together we're able to ensure the quality of our customer experience as well. Now, in order to make sure that this code that our main branch is always ready to release, sometimes our incomplete features will need to be behind toggles. So some of the toggles that we use will ensure that the code is only active within our dev environments when it's very early on in a feature's development. But even when the feature is closer to completion or just about ready for wider consumption, we will put a toggle on it that limits the feature just to our internal team. And we will all get our hands on it and use it in real life scenarios. In production, we'll use the new features and make sure that we're releasing the quality of feature that we expect. We call this dog fooding or eating our own dog food. So all of these steps together lead to some great benefits for our team. Because our main branch is always ready to release, we are able to do daily releases. And so we're getting these incremental changes into the main branch on a regular basis. We're constantly integrating to make sure that that our changes work well together, and we're able to release them every morning, unless we discover that there's a problem when we do like a daily review, just to make sure that that we understand the risks that we may be introducing. We don't spend any time waiting for pull requests at all. It's not a thing. We don't do that. And when we do sometimes run into merge conflicts or integration problems, it's on the order of minutes or maybe up to a couple of hours. They're super simple to resolve, um, and um, and basically take almost no time to take care of. As a result, it's a super productive team full of happy developers who get to work on what they love, writing more code. Thanks very much. Do you have any questions?
Thanks so much, Rocky. That's like really, really awesome. Um, I have a question, but I'm gonna wait to see if anybody else has a question before I do, because I can ask Rocky questions at any time.
Hi, Dana.
Hello, Rocky. Thank you for presenting. I'll ask a question. I agree with Jacqueline's introduction that this is a little bit of an unusual way to work. How did they start work and things I noticed that are unusual, twice daily demos and doing TDD and the pair code reviews, it seemed like. So I'm wondering, how did they get to this point? Did it come with you or was it this way when you arrived?
Um, I went there to learn about some of these practices from them. In fact, these are practices that I'd heard were great, and I'm definitely a big fan of. And I've definitely tried to promote those within other teams, but I didn't really have the firsthand knowledge to defend them, to go to bat for them before. Um, so part of it is hard-won experience. We have a number of members of our team who've been developing for quite a long time, and they brought some great experiences with them, and some great practices with them.
Great. And it sounds like maybe they started with more of the trunk-based development when you came. Is that right?
No, no, absolutely not. They were doing that before I joined as well. It's just a happy coincidence that this is what I wanted to learn, and this is what they were doing.
Thanks.
Thanks, Diana.
And Jay has a question in the chat. How do you coordinate the division of the branches?
How do you coordinate the division of the branches? Um, so I suppose the first thing that I should point out is that we largely don't. The only branch that you're going to be working on most of the time is the local branch on your own machine, which is also called main. And when you push it, it goes directly back onto your remote main. Um, there are some exceptions to that practice when we find ourselves in exceptional circumstances, but for the most part, we are all pulling the most recent bit of code from main and pushing directly back onto it.
How can we learn more about trunk-based development from PK?
Hmm. Um, I think, let's see, I can post a YouTube channel that I quite like that also promotes continuous integration and continuous delivery practices. Dave Farley, if you look him up, he's always talking about this stuff.
Thank you so much, Rocky.